Hello YouTubers and welcome to Crusader Kings 2 review by Reese Death. We're going to go into the game and talk about some of the features. So this is another grand strategy thing by Paradox Interactive, and it's set between 1066 and 1337. And it's called Crusader Kings 2, as I mentioned. Obviously you know that if you searched for it. And it's one of the better ones, I feel. It's much more about your dynasty and the real political affairs of the time, rather than how we look upon them from now. So this is more realistic than a lot of the other Paradox games like EU3 and Victoria 2, but my favourite myself is Victoria 2. There is some restrictions to who you can play as. Without any DLC, you can only play as the Christian nations. That's Catholic, Orthodox, or a couple of the other little sects. But with DLC you can play as Muslims, but not pagans yet, sadly. You also have to play as a kingdom unless you have the DLC that allows you to play as republics. So there's a lot of restriction, and there's a lot of restriction everywhere else, but it's a good game, and I'm going to get into it and show you some of the aspects of it. As you can see, there's a lot of different pagan religions and Christian religions and Muslim religions. So let's get into it. You can also design a new ruler, so if you want to start the game with a custom ruler with custom statistics that affects their age and things, you can, and that's quite interesting. So we're going to go into the game, and I'm just going to talk over all the points and actually show you the menus and various things that are associated with it. So when you come into charge of a kingdom, I can see my kingdom of Novgorod here. You have yourself and your family. Your family is very important in this because instead of playing as a country, you play as a dynasty, and you play as the character who currently controls the dynasty, and you have succession laws and things. So if I had a son and he became king of another country somehow, and then my character died, I would play as him and play as his country if he was the one who inherited it. Of course, that's very good for building up your kingdom, because in that circumstance he would also inherit the country I'm playing as well. So I'd play as him and he'd be ruler of both countries, so that can be very useful. And there's a lot of aspects of that, and a lot of aspects of... It's much more about the espionage and the taking over in more weird ways than war. You can't always declare war. You can only declare war if you have a reason for war, or causes belli, as I think they're called. They can be anything from they're another religion for us, so we want a holy war, conquer them, or you have a claim on their throne. You can get a claim through marriage and various things to take over their land. So anyone who doesn't really understand this sort of Paradox Interactive style games, they're about putting you in a time frame and just letting you take over whatever you want and do whatever you want. So there are a lot of different features in this one from the other games, such as vassals. Now vassals were also in, I think it was Sengoku, I think it was, which I've also done a review of. And if you go into here, you can give your vassals, as you can see I've got 10 vassals here with various relations to me. You can give them land through diplomacy, and diplomacy is something I'll come to. Money, arranged marriage with them and all this. Because you need to give them land. And you need to give them land because you can only have so much land you're ruled by yourself and only yourself before you start taking penalties. Mine at the moment is 2. I can control 2 territories. Now they're still in my kingdom if I give them to a vassal. But if I give them to a vassal, they rule over them and take a bit of the money and a bit of the manpower created there, and I get the rest, and it means that I'm not taking negative effects, and it's important to keep them happy so that they don't revolt against you or claim your throne or anything like that. So it's very about the internal affairs of your kingdom are very troubling, and oftentimes you'll be facing down revolutions coming up because someone is greedy for money or power. And it's very much got a good feel of authentic medieval violence. you know, fighting to take over the kingdom of Hungary while they fight against Poland or whatever, because you have a claim to it, trying to build up your empire and also fight for your religion in crusades or jihads and things. It's got that sort of feel, and there's a lot of aspects of it. Some things I'm gonna come to now. If you go into each province, when you take over a province, you have to siege it, but you don't siege the province as one thing anymore. In this game, there were several different areas inside it. So this is a county capital. This is the county capital, and it's a castle, and there's towns. And if we wanted to build one, we could build temples, cities, or castles for very expensive prices. And they are the things that generate the money and the wealth and the manpower. So taking over a province may be just taking over one, because there's only one. But if you go to a highly populated area, there may be 6, and they all have their own contribution towards ending your war and things. It's very interesting. There's also ambitions. If you want an ambition, the guy you play as can have an ambition, and fulfilling the objectives of this ambition will give you a bonus. So here, become exalted among men. If I had a prestige of 1,000, I would get be known as a great. People would like me more, and I'd gain even more prestige and some diplomacy skill. Various things here. Your religion. Each religion has certain aspects it can go through. Fractions. Fractions are something that's quite interesting in this game. In your kingdom, you can start a faction if you're a vassal that wants to achieve something, like change a succession law or something. And once you get other vassals to join that faction, you can present an ultimatum to your lord, and if he accepts, that thing changes. If he doesn't, then you go to war with him to change it. Intrigue, here you can also make decisions, so decisions like holding a feast or going on a hunt. Your military, where you collect levies, and you can only levies on your armies. You can have standing armies if you have the DLC, but they're expensive. And if you don't have the money, you're gonna have to keep with normal levies. You can only have them up for so long before your vassals get angry at you for raising levies, so they're more temporary armies. There's technologies. They don't play a huge bit, and there's not much to talk about them. There's some effects that keep them higher or lower, but rarely they just go up slowly. Laws. You can affect your laws of your kingdom, changing feudal levies, amounts, and taxation, and your succession. The succession laws are not just about how they succeed, how people can succeed, like whether it's it's elective or whether it's seniority, but also which genders can take over. So you can have just men and women, equal, not equal. So there's various aspects like that. There's the countries. Obviously, the Holy Roman Empire is one country, and the various princes of the Holy Roman Empire are classed as vassals. This is probably historically right. And there's just a nice feel to it. Obviously this isn't an incredibly in-depth review, and actually just talking about it for a little while, we've already got 9 minutes almost coming up on the video, so it's a very deep game. Because you need to have a casus belli to actually declare war, it's not got that many options for kingdoms that would be very interesting. You probably have to pick like a strong Muslim kingdom or a Russian kingdom if you want to go to wars all the time, but there's a lot of diplomacy and things, and that's something I'm going to come to with diplomacy. I'm just going to be diplomatic with someone, and you can see there's a few options here, and many more under vassals actually, so come to think of it, I should probably look into a vassal. You can revoke their titles, give them titles, give them money, grant them independence. If you go to a foreign lord, there's very complex sort of opinions of you, and very complex dealings of war, and request invasions from things and assassinates. And there's a score you can get in the game, which is your piety, which goes up slowly but is gained mainly through wars against infidels and things. And your prestige, which is sort of the same thing, except it's also increased by any wars you win or holding feasts or things. your character dies and whoever inherits your dynasty becomes the new person you play as, your score for that character is both of those things combined, and they go into a little scorer, I suppose. And by the end of the game, all the scores for all your people that have died and the one that's alive at the end of the game are added up, and that's your score. So your dynasty can be ranked, and you can see how well you've done compared to real life dynasties that have been scored by the Paradox Interactive team. So that's pretty much the gist of the game. It is a bit deeper than that, but that's really all we have time for. You'll enjoy it if you like the more diplomatic, slower things, not the quick pace of Sengoku. Was it Sengoku? Or was that the one with the 9 and you got to arrange the 9 numbers? I don't know. I'll put it in the description what the game was called. But that's another Paradox game which is set in feudal Japan, which is more about conquest and war. It's not quick like EU3, but there is a lot of war to be had, and it definitely is exciting to see the more deep political aspects and making sure you have an air and things, which wasn't really that deep in games like Victoria and things. So this has been Resteph, and it's been 11 minutes and a half just now, and I'd like to thank my 3 subscribers if they're watching this. Thank you. Remember to like and subscribe. Remember to watch my 2 other videos if you click on my channel, and thanks for watching.